What would happen if I took steroids for 30 days?
And so what would happen if you took steroids for 30 days? Well, you would put on muscle, put on size, get stronger, and then want to take them for another 30 days. And then another, and then another, and then another.
What does that first 30 days on juice feel like?
And so what does it feel like? Well, I posted hundreds of videos. I'm going to tell you, for the most part, it feels good. Unless you're using very high doses or you're an anxious person, for the most part, you're going to like it. That's right. I tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, oh, when you take steroids, you're going to feel like garbage. You're going to hate it. You shouldn't do it. You're going to take it and you're going to like it. And that is one of the scary things about it.
First, I reached out to a veteran to show me the ropes.
And so should Jeremy Ethier, who's been training natural for his entire life, should he suddenly start steroids and take them for 30 days? Of course he shouldn't. This is ridiculous. This is stupid. For one thing, if you do in fact decide to go that route, you have to realize you're probably going to want to do it for the rest of your life. Even if it's just one cycle. When you go off of that cycle, you're going to lose the majority of those gains, and perhaps you're going to need to take HRT.
Jaws. Jaws is one of the world's top bodybuilders, finishing in the top 25 as a Mr. Olympia competitor.
And so being someone that used to in fact sell steroids, that's right, I used to sell them, took them, abused them, did all of this stuff, admittedly so. I can tell you that so many people are doing so in secret. They're oftentimes not telling their friends, their girlfriends, their wives, their husbands, and yet they're doing it, taking it in secret, and their partners, they turned a blind eye. Many people, they have no idea. Oh wow, look at you, babe. You must be training really hard now. Meanwhile, you're on test, tren, and D-ball, and you're blasting, and your wife is thinking, you look a little bit bigger. That's it.
Right away, I was so hungry all the damn time.
And so one of the reasons he's hungry all the time is because of nutrient partitioning. The food that he's eating, rather than turning into body fat or being expelled as energy, is now being converted into muscle tissue. And so because of that, the body needs more food. And so you have an increase in ghrelin, makes you hungrier, and therefore you're going to put on more muscle by eating more calories. Now, remember, the first cycle you ever go on, you have newbie steroid gains. The same thing as having newbie gains. But with each successive cycle, you're going to put on fewer and fewer pounds of muscle. And so a person who's been competing for the very first time, they might do, for example, a cycle of Anavar, they'll notice, wow, I'm losing weight while eating 1,800 calories. The second time they go on a diet while eating 1,800 calories, they're not losing any, and they wonder why. Well, the reason is because you've already put on so much muscle on during that first cycle that the second cycle while you're eating 1,800 calories, your body is not building as much muscle, and it still doesn't need as many calories.
Like I would have a cheat meal every day and then maintain six-pack abs.
And so clearly, when you're on steroids, you're going to need to eat more food. I think everyone would understand that. Imagine if you're on steroids, you're eating 500 extra calories a day, you're pretty much going to be at homeostasis. You won't put on body fat. And so, of course, the pros look very good. When you first start taking steroids, you're going to have more energy, you're going to have a faster metabolism, you can eat more, you're building more muscle, you're getting stronger. But remember, all good things come to an end.
Strength-wise, I think it was like 2.5 weeks and 3 weeks, I started noticing some strength increases.
And I can tell you I was immediately stronger. 2.5 weeks before noticing a strength increase or getting bigger, for example, unless you're using a very, very long ester, the changes should be much more prevalent early on. For example, for myself, if I'm taking Anavar and I'm going to the gym in perhaps 2 or 3 hours, I'm 100% going to notice it. Not only going to be feeling stronger, I'm going to have a greater pump, I'm going to feel better, I'm going to look better. So that is one of the reasons I find it very difficult to not use Anavar even to this day.
Once the fourth week hit, all of a sudden it went just like I hit like NOS. My strength just skyrocketed.
Imagine the fourth week for this guy. For me, it was the next day. The next day, I could clearly feel it. It didn't take all that long, but if you're using very long esters versus shorter esters, for example, if you're using propionate or if you're using orals, these changes in strength, size, pumps, and so on should be almost immediate.
Natural lifters can gain anywhere from 20 to 40 pounds of muscle in their lifetime. Guys on gear, it goes up to a whopping 45 to 120 pounds.
And so here's the problem. You're saying natural lifters gain typically 20 to 40 pounds of muscle in their lifetime. Enhanced, 45 to 120. The thing is, it's not true. There are many enhanced lifters who are not going to gain 45 pounds of muscle even with steroids. I'm sorry, but if you have very shit genetics for both building muscle and building muscle with testosterone, you're simply not going to put on all that much muscle. And guys who are putting on 120 pounds of muscle, they certainly aren't 5'6" manlets. These guys are not putting on 120 pounds of muscle. Think of it. I competed as a 100% natural athlete weighing in the 170s. Imagine if I could put on 120 pounds of muscle. It says I can only put on 40 as a natural. Do you really think that taking steroids allows me to gain 80 extra pounds of muscle? That I would compete at 250 pounds on stage? I don't think so.
I would say like if you are enhanced, you can probably put on around like 10 to 20 pounds of tissue in your first year.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And so he says if Jeremy, who gained 30 pounds of muscle, seems to have about average genetics, if he were to take steroids in his first year, put on 10 to 20 pounds of tissue in his first year. I would say this is probably true, 10 to 20 pounds, but because he doesn't have amazing genetics, I'm going to go closer to 10 extra pounds of muscle. Now remember, while on cycle, perhaps he'd be up 20 pounds, but a lot of that, probably half of it, is going to be water. So if he decided to go on cycle, remember the pounds on the scale, the muscle he's put on, it's temporary. It's not permanent gains he's going to be experiencing.
Yeah, the tendency to shrink, and it is very noticeable. It's like almost like it goes to like,
So like this, and then
and it's like peanuts.
I've used steroids for 10 years and I'm on HRT, and I can tell you my nuts are not the size of nuts. This is ridiculous. Unless other people are losing that. Remember, I haven't examined other men on steroids that closely. I don't actually know, but there's no way they're even close to the size of nuts. Perhaps grapes, large grapes, maybe, but yeah, they do get smaller. Perhaps 50% smaller, maybe 2/3 smaller than they once were at their largest. But no, they're not going to be size of nuts or raisins. It's not going to get that small. But remember, the actual dumbbell, the one that you're actually using, that is not going to get any smaller. And if anything, it's going to, as Rich Piana said, it's going to make your dick look bigger. If your nuts are smaller, in comparison, dick going to look bigger. It doesn't get smaller.
I didn't notice ED issues.
Erectile dysfunction, ED, this is something that many people don't discuss, but after you go off cycle, very difficult to form the same level of erection, even if you can get one, the same level that you once had. And so many people are having this problem. Even with a proper PCT, even with doing everything correctly, you are very often going to struggle. And so remember, while you're on testosterone, while you're taking performance-enhancing drugs, you may feel like Superman. But after you go off, this is when the nightmare can occur. Now remember, we do in fact have Harder Than Last Time for the downstairs. Interested in this? Code Greg, 15% off. And if you are looking to stay natural, consider G-Test. This can improve your testosterone levels. Remember, if you don't want to go the steroid route, it's not going to be as effective, obviously, but it can improve your testosterone levels. And if it's something that can be done to help prevent people from going on testosterone, I think it's worth giving it a shot.
At the gym, buddy bumped into me, and I completely flipped the switch. I was just like, watch where you're going, man, like out loud. And I didn't realize that when it came out of my mouth.
And so for me, I never had any change in aggression. I didn't take testosterone or tren or any of these drugs really and feel like I'm suddenly an asshole. If anything, it's going on a diet and being hangry. That's really a struggle. Those of you who try to get to 5% body fat and you're hardly eating anything, you'll know what it's like when you're starving all the time and you have no energy. It's hard to be in a very good mood. And so if you are in fact natural, you don't want to take testosterone, don't want to lose your natty card, remember you can in fact use Ecti Builder and Turk Builder. These products are absolutely amazing for a natural lifter. Please consider using these before ever using performance enhancing drugs. Code Greg, 15% off.
But the true dangers that I would be worried about, and that should always be in the back of your mind, are the long-term effects of steroid use.
100% agree. Most people who are using steroids, they're worried about getting gyno, they're worried about losing their hair, and they're worried about acne. Those three things, that's about it. What they should be worried about is getting a freaking heart attack when they're in their 40s. And so, yeah, it's all fun and games when you're teens and 20s. I want to look cool. I want to have a large Instagram following. I want someone of the opposite sex to, at one time in their life, take a second look at me. But remember, what good is it if you can't get it up and you're gone 20 years younger? And besides, you don't need massive muscles to attract people. For the most part, if you get a lot of size, a lot of muscle, you're going to be impressing people of the same sex. Women, for the most part, like guys who are in shape. They like them to be fit. They don't want them to be obese. And so rather than just taking steroids and trying to get huge per se, why not do more cardio? Why not eat healthier? Why not add in GO2 max? If you do more cardio, you get a lower body fat percentage, perhaps somewhere under 15% body fat. You're going to look a lot healthier, a lot fitter. You're going to attract much more people than just getting massive.
Injecting 500 milligrams of testosterone in these different subjects, and some of the guys had testosterone levels that would triple while other guys didn't rise up that much at all.
And so this is the sad reality. Some guys just have really good genetics and some don't. If you gave 100 people the same exact cycle, the same exact dosages, and said train exactly the same, some are going to get amazing the results. They're going to be IFBB pro bodybuilders. Others, they're going to look like they hardly even work out. You're going to say, there's no way you're on steroids. There's no way you go to the gym. Yet they are. They're training as hard as they can. They're perhaps even eating healthy, but their muscles, they just don't show for it. And so unless you have really good genetics, you're not going to get the changes that you were expecting.
Just because your favorite influencer is using it and he looks okay, doesn't mean that you're going to have the same experience as he does, and who knows what he's also going through privately behind the closed doors.
And so the problem is, when you look on social media, people are only bragging up the good things. They're not telling you about the negatives. They're not talking about their negative blood work. They're not talking about their erectile dysfunction. They're not talking about what they're thinking psychologically, if they're depressed or if they feel like garbage, or if they're in fact wanting to end things after they go off cycle. But remember, I've talked to these people. I've coached thousands of athletes. I know what it's like to go on, and I know what it's like to go off. And I caution you, do not do these things without the advice and consent from your own doctor, and never ever break the law.
That extra bit of muscle, I just really don't see that being worth that extra risk. Having that extra 5 pounds of muscle.
And so to me, this is advice that I hate. I hate it when people just talk like this. I hate it when they downplay everything. So what he just says is, hey, unless you're competing, you shouldn't use steroids because those extra 5 pounds of muscle are not worth it. Bull frickin' shit. It's not just going to be 5 pounds of muscle. You know it. If you take steroids, maybe if it's just 30 days, 5 pounds not worth it. But if you're going to take steroids for a year, 2 years, and so on, you're going to be gaining more than 5 pounds. And just because you're not a competitor, just because you're not getting up on stage, doesn't mean you don't want that muscle just as much as that IFBB pro. Guys who are insecure with their bodies, who can't take their shirt off at the beach, who people make fun of them. Perhaps they have a 2 on 10 physique. Perhaps it's a 0 on 10 physique. They want to look average. Their dream body would be to look average. To look like they maybe go to the gym once a week. That would be their dream physique. And even with steroids, they don't have that. And so for them, steroids means the world to them. And so to hear, oh, don't take steroids because what's 5 pounds? Well, I'll tell you what 5 pounds is. 5 pounds could be the difference between being a 3 on 10 and a 4 on 10. And perhaps looking a little bit better, a little bit. It's enough to make them feel worthy, to boost their ego, to have a little bit more self-esteem, self-confidence. Maybe they'll dare go and approach that woman. Hey, I'm 6 feet tall on 130 pounds. If I were 6 feet tall, 135, maybe I'd feel a bit better. And then once they get to 135, they're going to want to be 140. It's never going to end. You're never going to be satisfied. 6 foot 160? Nah, I want to be 170. And so no matter how much muscle you have, you're still going to want to work harder than last time. Look at Chris Bumstead, 5-time Mr. Olympia. Do you think he's satisfied? Do you think he wants to just stop going to the gym? Or do you think he wants bigger biceps than last time? And so one thing I do understand is anyone that goes to the gym, they want results. I don't care if you're getting up on stage to fight for the Mr. Olympia title, or you're going to the gym for the very first time because you want to look better in your bathing suit for the beach. Each person has their own reasons to want to use steroids, and each person has to fight the battles to avoid them. It's very difficult. I know you want to do these things.
Am I going to take the jump and start using steroids? No.
And so obviously if you take steroids, you're going to be an advantage. You're going to build more muscle. You're going to do it faster. You're going to feel better. But don't forget that all good things come to an end. You can't, well, you could take steroids for the rest of your life, but of course it would be super unhealthy. And so one thing I can tell you is no matter who you are, no matter how great your genetics are, you can in fact do the best that you can do. Everyone can be their best version of themselves. And having a shit ton of size, it really isn't that important. But what is important is being fit, being healthy, perhaps having 15% body fat. If you're trying to look aesthetic, perhaps even a little bit less, perhaps 12% body fat. You don't need to have single-digit body fat. And for the most part, for 99% of people, it's not realistic. You're not going to feel good both mentally or physically. You get brain fog. You're going to be hungry all the time, lacking energy. And so please strive to have a realistic, healthy body, perhaps at 15% body fat. Don't neglect cardio. Do a minimum of 150 minutes of cardiovascular exercise per week. Consider getting my freaking cookbook if you're having a hard time sticking to a diet. If you're finding you're overweight, you can't put the fork down. Delicious, high protein, low calorie options for the big eater. And you're interested in all the natural supplements, we have tons of those at Harder Than Last Time. Click the link in the description. Don't forget, code Greg, 15% off. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Don't forget to like this video if you in fact liked it. Watch one of those 2 bloops. And of course, coaching plans by me and my team, the Harder Than Last Time clothing line, everything over at the website, the free diet and training program. It's close to 50 pages. Head over to the website, code Greg, 15% off. And until next time, I am out.